Hello everyone. Today I'm going to comment the game between Szymekk and Muff0, where Szymekk has taken the black stones and Muff was playing as white. The game comes from the 19th season of the Group E of the Igloo, and this is the first round. And white was the winner, although he won just with 13 points of advantage, so the game was quite even, and black had several opportunities to win, so it's kinda interesting to watch how the game was looking like. Fuseki looked kinda decent. The first move, which I would slightly disagree, is the M16, as it's a little bit too early in my opinion to attack the white stones so aggressively. Perhaps black would just prefer to extend from his shimmery, as the natural extension is just as it's shown on the graph. So black creates a nice influence zone. He takes a big point, and there is actually no reason to attack white stones here, as they have a local advantage, and it's kind of possible that black will not be satisfied with the eventual result. Besides this one, black can also consider a more traditional approach. Perhaps he can attack from the other side, or just play here. All of these options are playable, and here white extends in a quite unexpected direction, but it's still okay. Black plays into corner, and now he takes an opportunity to create some thickness, some strength over the upper side of the board. Although white could have played just over here, and it seems like the black stone, some of the black group, will be eventually cut, and white is not cuttable here, most probably. Firstly, white can just play like this, and it's absolutely okay. It's a solid connection. From the other side, even if black captures these two stones, I think that white can also consider something like that, although white must be afraid over the weak group on the right side, so perhaps the more secure variation is something like this one. In any case, white has missed this move, and white has chosen to defend the influence over the center, which is not constructed, because if white creates some kind of a wall directed towards here, these are no points. So black will get more on this side than white is able to create a compensation over here. It is probably more attractive to black, so white should have chosen a more aggressive variation in this case, and black plays solidly. He creates a good nice shape, and white creates another strange shape, as first of all, white most probably is afraid about the potential cuts, perhaps something over here, I don't know, but I'm not sure if it works so good for black, as probably white can just attack the black stone from the other side, and perhaps he can gain something even more interesting. Perhaps perhaps even if we play something like this, white still has enough time to capture the upper black group, and in other case, if black extends himself, white can still push further on. So I believe that the better option, the better choice would be just to extend in this direction. And most probably black would play firstly here, and then this cut doesn't work so nicely, most probably. Even after such a cut, white can still push further into the corner of the black. Well, going back into the actual game, black should probably have played already over here, and to separate this white stone on the K16, as it's still some kind of agim, which might be annoying in the later part of the game. Here, as long as white response is okay for black, although right now white doesn't need to play on Sansan. He should rather play over here, trying to separate black stones, because in any case I don't really see a way for black for saving all his stones. Either he will lose something, or he will get separated. So it's not a decent moment for any of the players to ignore the upper side of the board. But here black has chosen to come back to the upper part of the board. And white has ignored this. He decided to attack the unfinished Kobayashi opening of the black. So the result looks pretty even for both sides. White extends himself naturally, although I was considering what if white has extended himself a little bit further, something like this, perhaps even this, because if we got two stones over here, it's quite tempting to fight for a bigger influence zone. Nevertheless, this move is also okay. It's not any serious mistake for us. The game is still even. Well, I don't really understand this pip, because white connects himself without any special problem, and the result is like the weakness which could have been used in some moment by black, something like this or this. It depends on the shape of the later game. Now it doesn't work anymore, and the shape of the white is uncuttable from the one side, and from the other side black doesn't really gain anything from here, because these are no points yet, and they didn't become more secure for black after this move. So the move of p15 looks a little bit useless. Nevertheless, black extends himself more aggressively right now. Perhaps I would have chosen something like this, or maybe even this. as if we cannot attack this group directly, the move in the lower part of the board is not so urgent. The right part of the board looks a little bit bigger, and from the other side, these stones of black are located pretty high, so both of them lie on the fourth line of the board, so there is pretty much space for white to invade somewhere on the third line, which actually happened in the later part of the game. I don't really know if white really wishes to play such an exchange, because again, white is oriented towards a central influence, which doesn't gain much points, which is not a special income for white, while black secures stable points over this part of the board. So he gains something, while white gains less, in my opinion. White's group is perhaps it's not 100% strong in this very moment, but it's so easy to attack. Even if black plays here, white can easily extend himself, and I am pretty convinced that in case of necessity, white can relatively easy create a living shape of this group. It's hard to cut this in any place. I doubt if black wants to play such an exchange, because white can just jump here. So I would probably wait for a later time to play something like this, because perhaps we would still use this kind of agi in some moment, and right now it doesn't work so nice anymore. Well, and eventually white jumped into the right part. Perhaps it was the last moment for doing this, and black played something which is not understood by me, as I would probably play either like this or even like this, because the entrance towards the corner is still open from this side, while I don't really believe if white can just attack, if white has a space to attack like this, because probably right now this shape might be easily killed. Something like this, let's assume. So even if white has some option of invading the sun, black would prefer to play here, because even after such a move, black can just extend himself over the right part of the board and try to sacrifice the corner instead of gaining the whole right part of the board. Something like this, probably. So white is not pushed from any side, and he can easily extend himself, and therefore black decided to attack the left part of the board, which is rather dominated by white. Perhaps I would play more actively, trying something like this. It looks more pressing, I believe. But this one is also playable. And again, white chooses to extend himself on the second line, and I would like to remind you that we don't play on second line unless it's necessary. We actually prefer to play over the third or the fourth line, while the better choice could have been such a move. Still, white can try to kill black locally, although it's harder now because of weaknesses. It's pretty hard to predict how such a fight would look like. Nevertheless, I believe that the risk is worth taking it. And black answers here for some reason, although he should have tried to play something like this. It looks like a decent attempt to solidify his own zone of potential influence or territory, while diminishing the territory of the white player. Perhaps even such a pip like this might work in some moment. It looks like it's too early, but who knows. And now the white's corner looks secured, so he gained a lot of points. It's more than 20, while black still doesn't really have any special territory over this whole part of the board. He only gets this, something like this, and this, because white still has some potential to invade here. This territory looks so solid, and I don't really see any option, any possibility for black to destroy it. So perhaps that was one of the biggest gain of white in the game. And black tries to get some compensation, even if this is not the best way for doing that. This move still looks bigger. Perhaps even this would gain more points. And we can also try to attack the weakest white's group with move like this, because even if white extends himself over here, we can try to get some influence over the central part of the board. As right now, this shape looks more interesting. What I don't really like in this move is the limited zone of influence which it gains. Apparently, it doesn't give us more than approximately 6 points of potential territory, because it's not certain. So white has some potential ways of destroying it, while black doesn't get anything special. He also plays in Gote. Yeah, this is not center. White can get center right like with this move. So I believe that black would be more happy with such kind of an exchange. And even like this. white doesn't really get any special points over here. Yeah? This is very limited influence. And right now black has played the move which is not so white. Okay, I don't know if this is a misread or just a more tactical mistake, because if we are trying to avoid the moves on second line, then we certainly don't play on the first line. It's one of the worst moves which you can play in such an early part of the game. Much better would be playing like that. Black immediately needs to close himself. If he plays something like this, then white pushes into the corner and destroys basically everything what black has gained, and perhaps he can even try to play like this. The result would be probably disastrous for black. So in any case we need to avoid such moves, as black finishes in center and he plays another big move which forces white to desperately seek for life. Perhaps white prefers to play here in order to get some influence and to cut the potential way of connection of these stones with these stones. With a move on the fourth line, it would be a little bit harder, while the third line move is less pressing and allows for an easier connection of that kind, most probably. Maybe white would be able even with such a fierce attack, as there are some complicated variations which might have eventually lead to a connection of white groups. On the other side, black would get a nice influence. So the game would be still even. And now black gets another center. I don't know if this is the biggest move on the board. Perhaps black would still prefer to answer here, or just to return to another big point of the board. Now white has got an opportunity for a stronger attack, and here an extension seems to be necessary. White connects himself, and I don't believe that any cut works here for black. White would get a huge influence after such an exchange, and black still has a weak group in the left part of the board. And with such a move, white connects himself in a passive way which doesn't fully exploit the potential of his agi in d10. I suppose that white would be eager to extend himself from the stone. On the other side, black plays Yose. This move is seems to be big, but I am pretty certain that black shouldn't ignore such moves. After this, white gets into the corner, and this exchange looks to be slightly better for white, as black will be forced in some moment to connect himself with the central upper stones, while white settles himself totally on the right part of the board. Before this exchange, the right-white group wasn't fully settled. It could have been attacked in some way. After this, it's totally alive. Okay, that was Gote, and white has rightly transferred the game into the other part of the board, but this move is more urgent, as black needs to answer here, most probably. The right upper corner is more important and easier to diminish than the lower left corner, as this move doesn't threat in any way for black, as he has an extremely solid stone of the Sansan. Here, black should have played just like this, and he secures more points with this move. Nevertheless, white managed to extend himself in both directions, so good luck for him. It's another Ryosa which should not have been played right now. White prefers to create some weak groups. Right now, black has two problems, and white can easily use it to create some interesting influence. Perhaps something like this, why not? I think that white should have extended himself once more. Maybe like this, I don't really know, but the central influence of the white now looks really convincing. And this stone is not so badly important. Black managed to regain some influence with this move. Obviously, white can push further on, but it's black who has gained a center now. So the whole result here could have been played slightly better, perhaps. White could have also played like this, but still, this move doesn't help white to expand his influence. This one enables white to create slightly better shape than this one. As we see, black finishes with a kinda acceptable result, although he should have fight with really significant problems. Well, that was another move which was more urgent. There are many cards from the one side, And from the other side, the profit of the black is still limited over here. So this is not so important to play here. And now black can still destroy the white's influence. And black finishes in center. These moves are still Yosa, so it's way too early to play like this right now. And if you look on the AI, Katago really badly desires to play something like this because it threatens with this upper white group to be entirely cut. After all, white should connect himself, but it doesn't change the fact that black can create a really interesting zone of his own influence, destroying the white's influence in this very way. Well, this is more urgent, and this finishes any discussion over the cut here. And with such moves, we are cut, and we need to create an internal life. Although white also makes a serious mistake, he should have played like this, because with this move, black could have cut everything. It looks like the white's group is dead, and that will be the game over for both players. But white has got an opportunity to fix his mistake, so he has still a little lead. And both players still are playing Yose, while there are moves like this. While treating with a cut, black can still expand himself. Now the last fight for the center begins. And I don't really know if black shouldn't play like this, because even after something like that, black still has some possibilities to invade this zone, and he would be very happy to have this beautiful stone on O12. Right now, white seems to be safe here. There are no cutting opportunities for black. And we actually have started playing Yose, so most of the points are essentially decided. We are just finishing the last undecided part of the board, and it looks like nothing special happens over there. So after all, white has won over 13 points. But as we have seen, it was not an easy win for white. There were several moments when black should have gained an upper hand in the game. He had made several mistakes, like this one for example, but he could also use some moments of white's weakness and create his own advantage. So both players actually played a fairly match, and this is all from my side. I am really grateful that you have heard my comment, and if you have any questions you would like to ask me about anything regarding this game, please do not hesitate to answer me in the comments or on the private message. See ya.